everyone, to today's Fast Chat Backup versus Disaster Recovery as a Service and why your customers need both. I'm your host, Nick Cavalancia with Channel Futures, and I'm joined today by Lilac Shoenbeck, Vice President of Portfolio and Channel Management at Carbonite. Thanks for joining me today, Lilac.
Thanks, Nick. Nice to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Let's start by defining sort of both terms. How does Carbonite define both backup as a service and disaster recovery as a service?
Sure. This is actually a really fun topic for me because I think it congeals the differences between these technologies, right? Backup is entirely focused on making sure that you have a long-term history of the data in your organization. It's focused on providing 1 or 7 years of history on the data in your data center, on your servers, and even on your endpoints in certain cases. Disaster recovery as a service is about ensuring availability or uptime. So one is very much tuned to trying to ensure that a second system is ready and waiting, and in case anything happens, it can just stand back up as quickly as possible so your users experience as little interruption as possible, but isn't tuned to providing a tremendous history. On the flip side, if you want to go back to three years ago on Sunday, disaster recovery as a service isn't going to help you. Backup is exactly what you need.
That's a good point there. So in today's world, we've got like the prevalence of cyber attacks. We've also got a customer expectation of always being on all the time sort of thing. Do you think it's realistic for customers at this point to even just sort of see backup and or DR as just being sort of an insurance policy?
I mean, insurance policy sort of makes you hope that you never have to use it. And I think that's overly optimistic, to be honest. These things happen, outages happen, usually not cyber attacks, thank God, usually not a ton of natural disasters, right? But things will occur often, user error, hardware errors, patches that go wrong, stuff goes down. And so to me, this is a part of operational best practice. Now, do you need to have DRaaS on every system in your environment? Is it mission critical? That's the question. And the way that I talk about it here in our office with our teams all the time is how long would it take for your team to get up and go get a cup of coffee? If that system is down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we've had outages where people would sit around for hours just waiting for their email to go back up. That's not usual, right? Usually your sales team is going to walk away when they can't access their email after, what, an hour? And at what point do they go home? That is the cost of lost productivity. That is why you'd want to have a DRaaS type environment to bring those critical systems back up. Now, there's plenty of systems that doesn't apply to, right? Maybe payroll can go down as long as it's not the end of the month. But for many, many systems, usually about 30% of systems in an organization, that uptime is directly related to productivity or revenue loss.
Yeah, good point there. So selling a customer, even just backup alone can be hard enough for some MSPs. So what would be your rationale for a customer needing disaster recovery as a service?
Well, to me, it's really about how critical are these systems to your business, right? And we usually think about only the most transactional systems as being critical. The website's down, and so nobody could buy the widget. That's an incredibly narrow view. What are your employees costing you every hour? What does it mean for an assembly line to be down? These things are the basic costs of having your IT systems running the foundation of your business. And I think for a lot of customers, ultimately, this has changed over the last 10 years. 10 years ago, you could go to your dentist, whether or not their IT system was working, and they would take your x-ray because it wasn't digital, and they would fix your teeth because it wasn't digital, and you may or may not pay that day, right? Today, you can't even get in. They cannot see your x-rays. They cannot process anything you're doing. The whole business has come crumbling down, right? And that's all the benefits of technology. This is the downside of it. So I think for many, many more organizations, there are critical systems where uptime is absolutely important to the ongoing effectiveness of that company. And if you're down for even more than a few days, you might not switch dentists, but you would probably switch dry cleaners, right? Yep. And that's life or death for a small business.
Yeah, understood there. So for the partners that are listening that aren't experts in DR, how does Carbonite help simplify the work of offering disaster recovery as a service?
Gosh, you know what? The key to offering DR is to work with somebody who has already built the back end for this, right? There's a few different models you could take, but the way that Carbonite does it is we host the back end of the DR environment in our data centers, right? This is what we do all day: backup and disaster recovery and data protection. So we know how to run those data centers. And all you're really doing is selling a SaaS service with our back end. It's very, very straightforward. The onboarding is very straightforward. The way that we typically talk to customers and partners about this is every system probably needs a backup, right? That's just good, clean fun. Outages happen, drives fail, take a backup. On top of that, pick your top 30% of systems and apply disaster recovery as a service on top of those. That way you're confident that if something were to go wrong, the business isn't going to go down. And frankly, you've bought yourself that time to fix it properly. Because if you have to go and scramble to find a new server or a new internet connection or whatever, right? Everything just becomes quite panicked. If you know that you could fail over into a reliable, trusted cloud environment, hang out there for days, maybe even weeks at fairly low cost, then you can build the right infrastructure back up on-prem. We're not interested in hosting your services long-term. This is not Hotel California. We're interested in providing you that place to hang out while you build it right, while you do it right, to minimize that level of panic and scramble that often takes place, even with the most benign outages.
That's great perspective there. We've been talking today with Lilac Shoenbeck, Vice President of Portfolio and Channel Marketing at Carbonite. Lilac, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.